Legislation came into effect on October 1st, which prohibits smoking in vehicles when children under the age of 16 are present. We contacted the local RCMP detachment to see how this new law is being enforced. At this point, a month after the law came into effect, officers still say they haven't received in-depth information from the province concerning ticketing and fines for violating the new law. Health Minister Don McMorris says the focus right now is on education.
The Ministry of Health is working to try and be in touch with all the law enforcement agencies to explain kind of what we see as far as the enforcement. But I would say that as with any new piece of legislation that comes forward, whether it's tobacco use or most any new legislation, there is a bit of a grace period that we would expect enforcement officers to do a bit of education. If they stop someone and they had no idea that this legislation had been passed, there's a bit of a piece of education that needs to go along with it.
The new law is part of a Tobacco Control Act which was voted and passed a few months ago. NDP health critic Judy Junior says the government had enough time to provide more concrete regulations for law enforcers.
It was passed in the spring session, and then it should have had time to have regulations put in place which basically set out fines. That should have be able to be in place by October 1st. I would have thought that's why the delay from May till October was. Obviously, no one seemed to have done that work.
The new legislation itself involves people breaking a common habit, and McMorris says that will take time to get into the minds and habits of residents.
When you're changing people's kind of lifestyle in a way through legislation, you want to make sure that they have a chance to adjust. You want to make sure they have a chance to understand the legislation rather than cracking down with a $200 or $150 fine right off the bat. I don't think that's the proper way of doing it. That isn't the way we introduce seatbelt legislation or a lot of legislation that changes public habit.
The fines themselves will be between $150 and $500. McMorris says it will become common practice to hand out tickets for violating the new smoking law, much like it's now common practice to hand out tickets for not using a seatbelt while driving. But he didn't give a clear timeline when it would become common practice, only saying that law enforcers do have the authority to ticket people for violating the new laws at their own discretion. This lack of authority isn't sitting well with the opposition.
Now we're left with no way to enforce it, and I think that's a message that is unfortunate for a government to give the public, and certainly to give law enforcers, that you will make laws but we won't give you any tools to enforce them, and we'll make laws saying to the public we'll make laws but it doesn't matter if you obey them.
The health minister adds a big focus of the Tobacco Control Act is to change the general attitude of smoking and highlight the detrimental effects of secondhand smoke. For Southwest TV News, I'm Kara Rapke.